What's up, everyone? My name is Josh, and this is Josh Unboxed, and welcome back to another video. We have a discussion point that I wanted to talk about today. I may be a little late to the party, but I kind of wanted to give my thoughts on this Marvel PMG craziness. The recent sale of the Spider-Man Blue in a BGS9, I think, went for, I want to say $130,000. Pretty crazy price considering where it was probably about a year ago, right? If you've been a subscriber to my channel for quite some time, you know that I'm a fan of Marvel PMGs. In fact, I've done plenty of PSA reveals on Marvel PMGs back in the past, probably back in March, April, August. Done some PSA submission previews on Marvel PMGs, and at that point, I kind of made the comment that while everyone was looking at the 1990 Marvel Impulse stuff, PMGs were the way to go. And now that we've hit this fever pitch with Marvel PMGs, a lot of people are starting to think that Marvel cards are rising, right? Um, and yes and no. I think Marvel cards are fantastic cards out there. The artwork on those cards are beautiful, but there's more to Marvel cards than just PMGs. A lot of people tend to put emphasis back then on the 1990 Marvel Impulse cards. They have the 1966 Donruss superhero set, Rittenhouse cards. Marvel Masterpieces is one of my favorite sets of all time. I remember growing up collecting those. Back then, Marvel Masterpieces were the high premium sets. Take it for its artwork, the artists that they use. I think those are fantastic cards. And don't even get me involved with the sketch card one of ones. Those things are insane. But what I see a lot is a lot of investors, guys who jumped into the sports card market, or even sports card collectors jumping into the Marvel PMGs, because PMGs are kind of like the holy grail in sports cards, especially the 1997-98 Metal Universe cards. The Jordan, the Kobe, all those guys within that set, the greens and the reds. Those things are very, very iconic in the sports card world, and who wouldn't want to own a PMG, right? But if you do your research, there's a lot to offer within Marvel. But the question becomes, will any of those cards ever take off as much as these PMGs? And part of me wants to say, I hope so, because Marvel cards are fantastic, and I think there's a lot of room to grow in there. But a part of me also wants to say, not necessarily, because if you think about the collector base or the people entering the market to buy these Marvel cards, I don't know if there'll ever be a huge demand in Marvel Masterpiece cards, as beautiful as they are. The 95 and 96 Marvel Masterpieces sets are, probably some of the more expensive sets you can buy within that space. And then as you get into the later Marvel Masterpieces sets, they started doing parallel numbered cards. And like I said, sketch card 101s and such. Um, but it, what I really want to get at as well is the price point, right? PMGs have taken a huge turn this past year, and I think more so within the past few months. Back in October of last year, you probably could have gotten a blue Black Panther PMG for like $40. Now, who knows what the price of it is now? Back in January, you could have gotten a purple Miles Morales PMG, numbered out of 5, for about 400. And I think that was back in January or February, you could have gotten that. Now that there's a lot of attention to it, the prices just keep skyrocketing. And a lot of people may be upset because now that they feel that they're priced out. But if you never thought about buying the card in the first place at a price of, let's say, $400, then what difference does it make if the price is now 100K, right? Yeah, you could play the would have, could have, should have game, but that's just torturing yourself and beating yourself up. I think when you get to the point when cards get priced out, for any collector out there or any enthusiast out there, and I'm speaking about all collectibles, right, that tend to get priced out, then it's at a point where maybe it shouldn't concern you anymore. Maybe you should just ignore the fact that these cards have gone up in tremendous value. If you don't own those cards, then what point does it make for you to fret about the prices of those cards going up? A lot of people like to say when those card prices go up, it's an indicator of the hobby. It's an indicator of that sector of the market, showing that card like these prices are healthy, that the market is good, it's trending upward. But when you're dealing with high-end cards, and once cards get to that price point, there's only a select few people who can dabble within that market. And at that point, it's up to collectors with deep pockets, who are willing to spend the amount to obtain those types of items, or your investors who have capital to be able to invest in these types of collectibles for the long run. If you don't fall within that space, then there's no point in fretting or thinking about those cards. I mean, it's and honestly, it's cool. It's cool seeing those cards go up for that price, but does it affect anything that I do? It just leads to like more FOMO, in my opinion. And when you build FOMO, you start making irrational decisions in terms of your buying. So, for most collectors, most common collectors, there's a space. We have a budget to work with, and once cards go out of our budget, yes, you'll be sad at first because maybe you could have gotten that card back then, but now, no, that ship has sailed. But the beauty of the hobby, whether it's Marvel cards, basketball cards, baseball cards, football cards, WWE, Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, video games, Legos, anything like that, in terms of any collectible space, if you dig deep enough, you'll find a lot of areas where you can still continue to enjoy the hobby, still continue to enjoy collecting, and not concern yourself about the high-end cards. Eventually, you may get there, but it requires a lot of work, a lot of grinding, a lot of saving, a lot of trying to build the capital to be able to acquire one of those said items. And you will be able to get it if you put enough work in there, right? And then the process starts all over again. But when cards get priced out, that's it, right? That's it. As sad as we may be that we could have had that item back then, but that's looking at the past. We no longer live in the past. We have to live in the present and look to the future. And when you're looking to the future, it's more about finding new opportunities, new areas to collect, that haven't been tapped yet. And hopefully those things will increase in value. But at that point, you're doing a lot of speculation. You are thinking investor mindset when it comes to these collectibles and hobbies. When I feel that, we should just collect, and not worry too much about the monetary value of these items. Sure, you want the money that you put in to appreciate over time, but that's when you're thinking of it as an investment. If you're thinking of it as a hobby, um, it's a hobby. You're putting in money for the pure enjoyment. It's like no different than watching a movie, no different than being a foodie, no different than being a movie buff, like things like that. Like no different than going to sporting events or being a super fan of sporting events. Um, no different than buying wrestling belts to collect, right? Those types of things. When you're a collector, you collect for the enjoyment, right? I think monetary value becomes secondary at that point. But we've been so fixated on the investor mindset that we kind of forget and lose the sight of what it's like to be a collector, what it's like to be a hobbyist. And that's how we should always be, or not how we should always be, but I think that's how most people tend to lose their way and forget what we're here for, or what we got into this for. I mean, if you're in it to generate income and make a living off of it, or to invest out of it, then that's your prerogative. That's that's how you operate. But for a lot of people who operate in the space, we use it as a means of escape, for whatever goes on in our daily lives. It's something that we enjoy, that we're passionate about, and as things go up, things will go up, things will go down. And that's just how the cookie crumbles. But I just want to give my thoughts on the Marvel space, the high end cards. I'll do a much more deeper dive with like monetary value, and how I feel that we get so tied into the monetary value that we tend to lose sight of what these items actually are, and how we use monetary value and the thought of it going up or going down to really influence our decision on purchasing cards or purchasing items that you want to have in your, well, it no longer becomes about wanting to have it in your collection. It comes to the point where you're only buying it because you think that it'll go up over time. And I think there's a lot of people who do that out there. And And when you look at YouTube and you look at the social media space, there's a lot of people that present content that is geared towards that type of mentality. Um, and you have to dig really deep to find the people who do it as a passion, who do it as a hobby, who are very passionate with the collecting aspect of things. And when you see those things, it you could see the enjoyment that they're having on it. But that's for another video. I just wanted to throw this out there. So whether you agree or disagree, it's perfectly fine. I just wanted to give my thoughts on the situation, my thoughts on the matter. And with that being said, my name is Josh, and I'll see you guys in the next video later.